Yeah.
Okay, so this is a slide from basically my presentation in Riga in 2019. We had like BTC Pay Server Day where all of us, did some talks, and it was very fun day. So I'm now trying to just showcase you what BTC Pay Server is. And if you guys already read the Bitcoin white paper, you already know this paragraph here, which starts that commerce on the internet depends, exclusively on institutions which are serving trusted third parties and so on. So what that basically means that when people are making like a transaction online, you're always depending on a trusted third party to process that payment for you, right? So that is when Bitcoin comes in and fixes things for us. But in reality, it's not like that. Like even with Bitcoin being like decentralized, we still had like trusted third parties which are processing payments for Bitcoiners. So we had like BitPay and software like that. And that's like exactly the vision that Satoshi wanted, right? To depend on a bunch of companies to process payments. Of course not, right? So BTC Pay Server is basically a software which allows you to accept Bitcoin payments online. But as you see here, instead of having like a centralized service which processes that payments for you, you're basically your own payment processor. And
Recording is on.
these services will always like require some sorts of documentation, ask for your passport, in order to allow you to accept Bitcoin payments. And with BTC Pay Server, it's basically a software which you're running on your own cloud. And yeah, this is all comes to the trusted third parties or security holes. So in 2017, Nicola Dorie, this is basically my hand drawing of him. He is actually much prettier in real life. So he tweeted angrily at BitPay, which is a centralized company which allows people to accept payments, that he will make them obsolete. So what he did is he just reverse engineered their API. They had API. He simply looked at the endpoints and reverse engineered their entire technology stack and put it there online for everybody to be their own company, to be their own payment processor. So theoretically now anybody can be BitPay. And very easy way to understand BTC Pay Server is simply to imagine being your own PayPal. So imagine that PayPal open sourced their code and allow anybody to install it and run in just like WordPress. I'm sure that you guys are familiar with WordPress. So one way to think about BTC Pay Server is it's like the WordPress for Bitcoin, because it allows you in a very easy way. It gives you entire technology to accept Bitcoin payments online and both offline. And now I had like a bunch of stories around here. I wanted to talk about architecture, but I won't bore you guys with that because it's quite complex. But in a way, as you can see here on the right-hand side, is basically now there are no intermediaries. It's just your customer and you as a merchant running a server in order to accept Bitcoin payments. And yeah, it is also way beyond just a payment processor. We like to call it a modular payment platform, but that's a story for another day. And yeah, in Riga, I actually forgot to ask questions by the end of presentation because we were so drunk the day before that. So I actually prepared this presentation same way I'm preparing this one now, without preparations, basically. Yeah, so this is, just wanted to show you guys the Riga. This is the BTC Pay Server crew here. I'm not sure if you can see it. Maybe I need to zoom it in or something. But yeah, this is like entire crew. It was very awesome meeting. So now let me show you our website where you can learn more. It's btcpayserver.org. This is all like community work. There is no company behind it. It is like the Bitcoin design guide, completely free and open source project where contributors all over the world contribute to the software. We have website translated in so many languages. I mean, if you wanted, I don't know, Russian, here it is. It's on Russian. So we try to deliver content and educate people in any language that we have, because we really believe in decentralization and allowing people to accept Bitcoin payments without intermediaries and without borders, basically. We also have pretty cool documentation, docs.btcpayserver.org, where all of this stuff I'm talking and ranting about is way better documented and way better structures. There are also a bunch of videos where you can hear my Russian accent talking about certain stuff, and you also have like going a little bit in depth how BTCPayServer is, private, censorship resistance, and so on. But are there any questions, guys? I'm ranting so much at this point. If there are any questions, just feel free to let me know, or I will just go right into the demo. So I will give you a moment. If there are any questions, just let me know. Nobody even wants to know about drunk day at Riga. Okay.
I was going to say, I think everyone's very familiar with the great work at BTCPayServer, so probably just excited to see the demo. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I wanted to dox a bunch of drunk stories, but let's go into the software. So one thing about that people don't know about BTCPayServer, as I already said, it's a software that you're running on your own machine, on your own hardware that you have. You can even run it on a $30 Raspberry Pi. One thing that people don't know is that you can allow registration to your BTCPayServer instance to other people. This way, you can allow your friends, family, local communities, and they don't even have to run server. You can run it for them, and they can get all of these features basically for free, or you can charge it for them if you want. We don't have like a charging system where we can charge people, but in a way you can become a payment processor for your local communities. And this is very powerful because it in a way decentralizes payment processing even more. Not everybody has to run BTCPayServer, of course, ideally they should, because it also has Bitcoin full node in the background and stuff like that. But that's just one point that I wanted to bring out. So I'm now running this in local environment. If you see that I have like 3 Bitcoins, 10 Bitcoins transactions, don't worry. It's all generated in reg tests, so it's not real Bitcoin. And also if, I don't know, if there is any feedback around this onboarding or stuff that we can improve, I am certain that many of you will have so much feedback as I demo stuff. One thing to know is that when we started this project, it was basically all of us doing everything we can to, all of us had a certain idea on how to improve, and we built software that way. So there was no like mock-ups and plan. Everything was built in, and now we're trying to fix and iron out the entire interface, which is at this point beautiful compared to what it was like a year ago. So even though it does not look great, I promise that it look way worse than it is now. So this is what you see when you log into BTCPayServer. This is just like a page which we want to have a dashboard here one day. So we want really to have like an overview and stuff like that. For now, it's just a homepage, completely useless. But yeah, we will replace this with the dashboard. First thing when you create a new BTCPayServer is that besides registering account is to create a store. And on the store page, you can see here, it's probably not clear this to the user when they log in that they need to create a store, but they need to create a store. And store is basically a very old concept that BitPay created with their API, and now we're so coupled to it that it will take like months of work to decouple the concept of store. So I'm not even going to try to explain to you technically why we have stores at this point, but it is important to know that you have a store which you need to create. And then inside that store, you have a wallet, you have all sorts of settings. So for example, you can set up the length of the invoice. You can customize like when to consider payment invalid and stuff like that. You can set up this, for example, up to 6 confirmation if you're accepting payments online instead of in retail, stuff like that. But yeah, this process here is something that we really want to improve in the future. Like this initial setup is so painful, and we are working on creating that, improving. Like we want to have like setup wizard and stuff like that. So if any of you have any recommendation, I know this is painful. Our users usually go through our documentation, and then they read everything here, why they need to create it and stuff like that, and then they go back to the software and then they create it. But this is just like something they need to do once, so they are in most of the cases okay with involving certain effort in order to set this up. So when you're creating a store, you need to set up your own wallet here. And this is where the UX nightmare also begins, but we are also, in the next release, we have a wizard for this. I promise it's not as scary as it seems now. So I will just now skip. There are a bunch of ways. Ideally, you can import just the extended public key from any wallet that you create, and then BTCPayServer will simply be able to generate invoices for you, and payments will go directly to that wallet. So if someone hacks your BTCPayServer, well, hell, they cannot take your money away because you don't have private keys on it. Of course, this comes with a few cons along the way, because there are all sorts of extended public keys, and there is that gap limit and all sorts of technical stuff why this isn't ideal. So people can also, we added the ability for you to create your own wallet. And I'm sure that most of you, since you're UX and design people, are probably crying right now just looking at this interface. Trust me, I'm crying every day, but in the next release, I promise to show you guys. I can probably show it to you right now, but it will take time and my PC may crash again. So right now, people just, let's say that I want to create, this is also way better in the next version. So people can also create their wallet. They can just generate it, and then we delete a public key from the server in order to prevent hacks. But if you want to use that wallet to send and receive money, you need to enable hot wallet. So yeah, maybe this will be interesting to some people. This is actually based on Patricia's presentation, I think in London, when she talked about the ways in which we want to show this, the recovery phrase here. So I'm not sure if Patricia is here right now, but thanks for this. Thanks to you, we were able to create this page to look like this. And then we added a bunch of stuff that people probably don't even read, but also, if there are any suggestions on how to improve this process, just let me know. So yeah, let's say that you created the wallet. Same process is for Lightning Network. I won't show that now. I want to show you that some other cool things actually that you can do with BTCPayServer. So of course, some of the basic stuff is you can create an invoice. This is here an overview of all the invoices and payments you received in BTCPayServer. So you can look at the details. You can even refund the invoice. So let's just give me a second. I will show that how to refund maybe if we have more time. But for now, some basic stuff you can do is create an invoice. So I can create an invoice, and now you can preview it. And this is basically how. This is basically how an invoice looks from the inside. So this is what the merchant sees. So, but what your customer actually, what your customer actually sees should be a payment page. And this is basically the only interaction customer has with BTCPayServer. So they will see something like this. They can choose from Bitcoin and Lightning. Also, maybe this is something that UX people could, brainstorm about how we can make this better, because I remember that people were confused how to interact with Lightning and stuff like that. So we do have a solution for that. We unify Lightning and Bitcoin code in this QR here, but it's still not supported for all the wallets. So when customer scans this, you receive payment, and yeah, that's how you receive payment with BTCPayServer. But of course, you don't create invoices manually for your customers. What we actually have is a bunch of e-commerce plugins. So if you're running, let's say, WooCommerce, PrestaShop, or any other, e-commerce software, you simply install a plugin, connect your BTCPayServer to it, and then on the native checkout, like what you're doing in any e-commerce store, basically you'll be able to check out, and then you'll see the invoice. And once the invoice is paid, basically merchant will see that it is paid and that they can ship it. We also have notifications here for merchants. So when invoice is paid, you'll get a notification. But what is very important to know is that all of these things are automated. So you don't have, as a merchant, and if you're running WooCommerce, you don't have to look through this. This is already all automated. When invoice is complete, we will bump the status of it on your WooCommerce store. So all you have to do is connect BTCPayServer and maybe just, occasionally troubleshoot the issues that you have. So ideally, you don't even have to go back to your BTCPayServer once you set things up. I see that I'm running a little bit on time, but I will try to show you a little more cool stuff. So that was the basic idea of BTCPayServer, but then we realized that not everybody are running e-commerce shops. They don't have websites and stuff like that. So we created a bunch of applications called apps, of course, like point of sale and crowdfunding. And these allow you to simply have like a very simple way to accept Bitcoin, even though if you don't have a website. So it looks like something like this. Very simple, like web page which you can share with people, and this is how most of people accept donation through BTCPayServer. However, if you enable certain settings here, and I'm very much aware that this all here interface is very maybe confusing for you at first, but yeah, we will work on cleaning things up. Our goals was always like pumping features and giving the best for community. We always built what people want, but here is a very interesting example of, point of sale system that people can install on their tablets, and then it will generate the invoice for you. You can tip and stuff like that. So when they pay, you receive payments, and that's about it. But as I explained already, besides applications, we also have a web wallet. And this is where I'm Bitcoin rich. You see, I have 2 Bitcoins, and let me show you how that works. So we have a web wallet, but this wallet is way more private than any other wallet which you probably used, because it has Bitcoin Core running, so it's a full node reliant wallet. It has a bunch of privacy enhancement features, which maybe I don't have time to talk about right now, but it also doesn't have perfect UI. So a wallet is also one portion of BTCPayServer, which I really hope will improve in the future. So yeah, beside wallet, we also have like payment requests. These are basically links which you can share with anybody, and then people will simply, maybe I have time to show you this, because actually this is one of the few apps which has very nice UI. So let's say that I want to get paid. Oh, I forgot the currency. Let's say 12 Bitcoin. And this is simply a link which you have to share. So if you share this with your friends, they will arrive to a web page. Well, they will see that, they can pay you here. So when they click pay invoice, of course, invoice will be generated. They pay the invoice. Once it's paid, it will be visible here. And they can also even print this out. And this will look like any regular invoice. So I see that I'm running. Connor, should I maybe leave some time for questions, or should I continue with?
Yeah, no, you can continue, and then maybe leave 10 or 15 minutes for questions. So yeah, go on for another five or so minutes.
Yeah, I feel like I'm talking like way too fast. I'm not sure if all of this makes sense.
No, I've got a lot of
guys,
questions written down, so feel free to continue, and then we'll go into questions.
Sure. Okay, thank you. Yeah, so as you see, we have a bunch of applications built in, because what we've been doing at BTCPayServer is always making our community happy. So we were building in features on a go. People wanted stuff, and we built it in. Now, when product matured, we have a bunch of cleaning to do, but we also have very strong community of people who constantly provide us feedback and talks to us, and we improve things on a go. Changes right now are very hard to do, especially big changes, because, hey, this is a financial software. There are lots of companies in the space using it. We don't want to have aggressive UI changes, because imagine that you're a merchant, one day you update it and everything is messed up. You cannot even look at the invoices the way you used to. So we try to have small changes, we push often, and then that's how people get used to the new UI and the changes we do. That's at least the approach we were taking. So there are lots of advanced features. Maybe in the wallet, what would be interesting is that we have you see, this is actually part which I really think we can improve. We have all sorts of advanced options here. So basically, you can check that we don't create UTXO change. You can also, include non-witness UTXOs. We also have, this is a mistake, we do have RBF in our wallet, I forgot, but we even randomized that one. So that's not ideal, but it randomizes in order to reduce the fingerprint of the wallet, so that I will not go too much into details, but basically people cannot detect that you're using BTCPayServer wallet. And one thing I forgot to say is that you can run this locally on Raspberry Pi. So it can be a wallet just talking to your Bitcoin full node on a Raspberry Pi. You don't have to expose it through the internet. You can run it through Tor, and we have Tor enabled by default for even greater privacy. But if you're a merchant, of course, you cannot expect people to access the Tor invoices. One last thing I want to show you guys, which really needs improvement, is coin selection. So one cool thing about BTC Pay servers and all of the apps we have is that we can then automatically put labels on transactions. And this is not something that wallets could do. I'm sure this is probably, I will try to zoom it in maybe, but this is something that may be interesting to people who are doing like coin selection part of the Bitcoin design guide. So we assign automatic labels for transactions. If you receive a payment through certain app, we will say point of sale app, we will say, I don't know, payment request and stuff like that. So then you will be able to select specific UTXOs that you want to spend, and then you can, send them through the wallet. Or maybe you need to zoom out like. As you see the UI here, we are aware that it is scary. That is why we put advanced settings and we put it to be hidden on, because it is quite scary. You can also filter by labels here and stuff like that. So yeah, if you want to give BTCPayServer a try, there are a bunch of third-party hosts or people hosting servers online, so you can just register there and try it out, or you can deploy your locally, check out our documentation, or just ping me. I would be happy to showcase it to you. So yeah, there are also tons of features that I don't have time to discuss, but yeah, are there any questions, guys?
I have one. Could you just add a little bit about your design process, because I know you've been working hard to improve your design process, and you do have I think a dedicated designer, Destruct, right?
Yes. So BTCPayServer is now 3 years old, and we, to be honest, for 2 years we didn't have designers on the project because we were mostly focused on providing features and stuff like that, and then we simply Destruct came and we began like improving our design process. So for now we have like designers meetings, we have issues on GitHub that we label specifically for designers. So if you're a designer, you can simply click on a design label and then you can see all of the issues that we are discussing. But our design process basically is we have like a core community meeting. We discuss on certain features that we want in. We determine which one are suitable for designers, and then designers would simply discuss those on a design meeting. And yeah, so then they will create like mock-ups on Figma, and we will then jump from Figma to GitHub a few times in order to like figure out the best course of action. And I think that Destruct already posted quite a good post on this issue in Open Design, I think, channel on Slack. So he posted like very detailed answer to this. So I encourage people to check it out. But maybe we can invite him to one of the calls to talk about specifically, because I'm not a designer. So maybe it would be better to hear it from his perspective. Are there any other questions?
So I have one. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Hey, this is Anant here. When you talked about extended public key being pulled into BTCPayServer, so if someone is sharing the BTCPayServer with their friends and family, that would mean that BTCPayServer needs the XPubs from their wallets as well, right?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay. And do you think that people are okay with that kind of relationship?
I mean, if you're my friend, I wouldn't mind sharing an XPub key with you that I can use just for accepting payments in my online store, to be honest. Because
right,
yeah, people running server can basically anyway spy on you or see your transactions. So, I mean, yeah. But yeah, you can even generate wallets for them if you don't want them to be aware of the public key and stuff like that. But we like to think about BTC Pay as simple like payment factory. So you have like tons of BTC Pay servers in local communities where enthusiasts are running their own BTC Pay server and allowing people to accept payments. But if you are privacy oriented and you don't want to trust them, you can always deploy your own and be completely independent.
Right. Okay, thanks.
What's the pull payments tab that you have there on the screen?
Oh man, come on. Don't make me, we have like 1 minute. Yeah, It's a way we are trying to create a way for pool payments, but for on-chain it will be basically customer requesting a payment.
Gotcha.
Best way to think about it is a refund. So we share a page, customer enters their address, claims the refund, and then you have to authorize that on our end. But we're also adding Lightning and stuff like that, so it will be automated. Basically, you can scan QR code and get your own refund, but merchant first needs to create that refund.
Gotcha. All right, no worries. Sorry about the derailing. you know why I asked you about that anyway.
Yeah, it's a good topic. Probably we can discuss it on some other meetings. I'm not sure how we are with time. So, are there any other quick questions?
I've got one. Just on the onboarding and kind of setting up of the wallet, would you say a lot of the pain point comes from the fact that some of the terms and stuff might not be that familiar for people, so like the derivation schemes and all this kind of stuff, and is some of the time, I'd imagine, being spent trying to find out what those things are and the implications if you perhaps set it up wrong? Are you seeing that as any feedback at all?
Yes, that's a great point. We are eliminating the derivation scheme terminology in the next update. We'll try to use like what we will use is probably like extended public key, but we'll see. We are constantly experimenting with things like that, but it seems that most of our users right now are familiar with some of the basics of Bitcoin, so it's not like they don't know anything about it. So they usually already have a wallet, so they can probably export their public key and add it to BTCPayServer and stuff like that. But because if you decide to accept Bitcoin payments, usually you have some prior knowledge in most of the cases why you want to accept them. It's not just like one day you wake up and decide to accept Bitcoin payments.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Any other questions?
Yeah, I was actually just going to ask if a user doesn't want to opt for manual coin control, is there an automatic solution which BTC provides for users?
Yeah, I think that it goes with the FIFO method. Like I'm not sure with that one. I really am not familiar with which method we use for automatic coin selection, but basically it should be like standard, like in any other wallet. I don't think we do anything specific there, but if you want manual, you can toggle it and then choose your own UTXOs. But I'm not sure if that's the answer you were looking for.
I guess you have two checkboxes there for don't create UTXO change that might change the algorithm, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. But you see, this here is something that should be in wallet settings, because if you're really like careful about your privacy, you probably don't want to set this up for, every transaction that you make.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah.
So what we did is basically, let's hide this stuff until we figure stuff out. Perfect method. And people aren't even aware that we have coin selection, but advanced users usually, I really like that we are using, I know that we discussed like about labels and transactions, and I remember this genius idea. I'm not sure who has it, like predefined labels that we can have in wallets. And this is something similar that we have here. So I know that it looks like bad right now, but maybe this is some good, ideas that we can get going and see how we can improve these specific features in the future. I would be happy to if we could.
Yeah, that's Magnus, the anonymous contributor.
Yeah.
Just
yeah,
quickly,
you're right.
Just quickly as well before we move on, if a designer wants to find their way to like or wants to dive in a bit deeper on some of this stuff, what do you suggest they do? Do they just reach out to you probably initially and then?
Yeah, sure. I'm always open to direct them to a specific issue, but they can go to our GitHub and then just look at design and UX labels, and they can see these specific issues. I'm personally trying to like explain every issue in depth. I record videos for certain issues because I really feel that helps designer if they are not familiar with the processes and everything. They don't know how to run BTCPayServer. But if I record a video and showcase stuff like I'm doing now for you guys, I noticed that that takes them to, even they quicker understand the issue, they understand what needs to be fixed, and then they're more likely to jump into feature and into Figma to create prototypes. We also have documentation here. We have on our documentation, we have how you can contribute to BTCPayServer, and there are documentation how to get involved. Specifically, if you're a designer, I believe there are some stuff and links to our Figma and stuff like that. So docs.btcpayserver.org, and most of your questions will be answered there. But I'm always more than available to help you out on any issues or questions that designer may have.
One other question about process and stuff quickly. I noticed you have quite complex flows for if you go back to the dashboard.
Sure.
Yeah. So you have this send. Yeah.
Oh, you wanted the wallet. Sorry.
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. With the send. Okay. So you have the send flow, the receive, the transactions. That's that's your incoming, right?
Yes, so this is basically incoming and outgoing, as you can see. Send, of course, and receive just like that. If for some reason you want, because people use BTCPayServer to receive payments with, mostly via the software, via e-commerce stuff. But if for some reason you just want to share address with somebody, you can, and that's what we do. And I agree,
Yeah, but then you also have payment requests on the top there.
Yeah. That's nightmare. So
is that the same or?
No, payment requests are basically just a long-lasting links. Let me see if I can show it to you. So it looks similar. It's a long-lasting link, and it basically generates invoice for every ideally, if you have a designer and you want to agree with them for a certain amount, let's say $100. You don't have to agree on the amount each time. You basically share a link, and amount will be generated instantly and on the specific time, and the rate will always be correct. I made a video on this, so if anybody wants to see it, you can just BTCPayServer payment requests. But I agree that terminology is confusing, because that is a bit confusing with Lightning Network and their own payment requests. So if I have 1 more minute, maybe to just in defense of this flows and everything. So we're trying to clean both apps and payment requests. What we are doing is creating plugins now. So what we want to clean all of these features and add them as plugins. So ideally, like the WordPress, BTCPayServer in the future will have a bunch of plugins, community developing plugins, and then you can basically tailor BTCPayServer to your own experience and the way you want it tailored for your specific use case. And we'll try to eliminate all of this stuff from the UI. We just want people to set up server, receive payments, troubleshoot, and stuff like that. So, but it is a very long process. We estimate that will be at Q4 maybe this year, hopefully, but we'll see.
Awesome, Mark.
Good stuff.
So when you, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead, Alexa. Go on. No worries. Go ahead.
Really good work. So, I really like what you're trying to do so people can accept payments. When you speak of this modular payment platform, is that what you're thinking of with plugins? But would it be just, I don't know, would it be kind of this thing where you just have the plugin for the specific website, or are you thinking more of the options that people could choose? Like if you have a payment versus, I don't know, a subscription versus or something like that.
Yeah, that's awesome question. So once I mentioned modular, this is exactly what I had in mind. So we want to have like a core, completely simple and like very like generic. But if you want to modify BTCPayServer to your certain use case, you will be able to have plugins which maybe we will have teams. Well, you know, different teams will have different features, but yeah, also like have e-commerce plugins in there and stuff like that, so that you can basically activate whatever you want to use. Of course, this has some security implications, and we will need to do our best, because if there is a malicious third-party developing plugin and you want to upload it, maybe they can try to steal your XPub, or inverse, maybe they can steal your Lightning Network, you know, hot wallet and stuff like that. So it is not as easy as it sounds. So we are really trying to, like, it's still experimental. There aren't many plugins, but ideally, there will be a community developing open source plugins which you can activate and tailor the experience for you and use only features that you want to use. Like, I really cry every day, trust me, for us adding payment requests and stuff like that. But at that time, that seemed like a good decision, because sometimes it is more important to encourage people to contribute, to make your community happy and not worry about being perfect. So software is always like ongoing process. You can never be perfect, and it will always like require some work and ironing out.
Thank you. And work, and it's true. I think it's better that you have the options right now than that you work on along the way on improving everything. So thank you.
Yeah.
So this is what we are trying to do with the backup scheme in Hexa, and how we are trying to improve it. This is about our thoughts at this point in time, and what are the security implications of it, and why we are doing it, right? So before that, I'll set some context in terms of why we have some trade-offs that we understand there are, and why we have gone for the mechanism we have, and then probably jump into the improvement we are bringing in with the backup scheme 2.0. Okay, so this is a typical Bitcoin wallet backup. BIP39 was actually an awesome major breakthrough, where the mnemonic seeds and mnemonic and seed words and seed was used instead of .dat file that people were doing before that. So it's very straightforward actually in terms of our understanding of the whole schematic. So mnemonic generates a seed, which is the random entropy, and then that is used to create private keys, extended keys, and public key addresses and stuff like that, right? The way wallets work is they use these private keys, extended keys, and addresses in their wallet for transactional purposes, right? And the mnemonic or the seed words are stored away as a backup. That is a typical that is how a typical Bitcoin wallet works. Now there are several benefits to this. The first thing, the assumption or the base premise we start from is that the security guarantees that you need for a backup are very different from the security guarantees that you need with the transactional side of things, transactional keys, if you want to call it. These are private keys, but essentially in more generalized terms, it's backup and transactional keys. Imagine using your bank, for example, and using security questions every time you want to log into the account. So when you log into the account and use your bank account, you would probably have a different mechanism. And when you lose that mechanism, there's a backup that you use to access the mechanism as it was by changing a password or something, right? So if you really look at it, a backup scheme is used very rarely. So why is there a difference? So backup scheme is generally used very rarely. So it's less accessible, and it should be more easy to remember over longer periods. And as it is the final option, it needs to have redundancies. You shouldn't be that, how do you transact with your wallet or with your funds, right? But when you look at transactional side of things, they're used much more frequently online, and so should be easier to use than the backup scheme. And at the same time, because they get exposed, they should be easier to change, right? Bitcoin private keys are great for that, because we use different private keys for different addresses, so they change automatically. But what we are talking about is why the backup scheme is different in typical wallets and even traditional banking or any other space. Why is it different from the transactional layer, if you will? So, and this is a summary, a snapshot of it. We compared different wallets out there in terms of different properties. The two most important properties of a backup mechanism is its resistance to theft and resistance to loss. So these are the two major things, other than ease of use and stuff, but we try to map or rank these wallets according to these two factors, right? So the summary is that mnemonic words are actually a very good mechanism. and to back up your wallets. It does have some trade-offs, but essentially keeping it separate from the transaction layer gives it a lot of advantage. Instead of having a digital file or .dat file, which so stores your private keys, right? One of the things that multisig gives you is redundancy, and because it's on-chain, it's pretty secure. Again, this is about trade-offs, right? So, but some of the things that it may not be able to provide as compared to a mnemonic seed is having this differentiation with the transaction key wallet. It does involve an on-chain transaction with a corresponding fee if you want to change the scheme. You cannot do it offline. You cannot restore the wallet offline, because if it's an on-chain transaction, you're going to create a new one, you will have a on-chain impact. And then the third, which is pretty important, is because it's an on-chain commit, it is not really flexible to change without a new commit to the on-chain transaction. So Taproot does improve a lot of things, and it definitely lowers the fee, the point number one, and it improves the privacy a lot. But the other trade-offs, mostly many spending conditions in a Taproot script. But imagine if you lose the transaction spending condition, then what you'll have to do is you'll have to use one of the other spending conditions and spend it to a new Taproot script. So it will be an on-chain transaction even in Taproot. So this is the logic behind why we have kept the backup scheme very different from the transactional scheme or transactional layer in Hexa. So how does the current system work? So I'll pause here for a few seconds before I start with how does it exactly work in Hexa. Any questions, guys? Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, hear you loud and clear. Nice.
So I assume that was pretty clear. So how do we do that in Hexa exactly? So yes, the backup key is different, but the way we want to introduce redundancy is using Shamer secret sharing, which is a 3-of-5 backup scheme that we use. So mnemonic is essentially sharded into 5 separate keys, which you can share with your social contacts, with digital platforms, offline storage, whatever you want. This is the way currently it works, and you can see some screens how you can manage your backup, and how the health check checks upon some of these recovery keys, as we call them, and reflects back the health of the app, so that you can take necessary action. One of the things with recovery is because they are very infrequent in use, you might be coming back after a year or two to look at your backup, and they might just be stale or gone and you don't know about it. So it's very important to have a health check, which is a check which happens every 15 days and 4 weeks, which tells you if there is any action needed. Some of these health checks are automated because the apps do come online and they can ping back. So those are automated ones. While if you are storing something offline, the app reminds you once every few weeks to do something, so that the app knows you still have access to it. So that is how the health of the backup is calculated and showcased to the user. Right. So this is the way the current backup scheme works. So if you guys have used it or you have any questions on it, we can talk about that now. Okay. So I'm assuming this was pretty clear as well. Now, what do we want? Sure.
Could your slides keep disappearing sometimes after a few seconds? Maybe if you don't move your cursor, the slides disappear or something? Here, now they're back. Did you just do something?
No, this is with Jitsi.
Okay.
So yeah, probably because of the amount of people on the call, the videos will be going off and on.
Okay. So Connor posted the link to these presentations in the chat. If anybody, if the slides disappear for some reason, you can click that link. You can also see the slides, just in case.
Yes, yes, please. Yes, please. So, and if you don't see something I'm talking about, I can pause and just move the cursor to see if it comes back or something. So please feel free to stop me. So this is the current scheme. Any questions on this, please?
If I could summarize real quick, so in the previous slides you compared the different techniques, and you're saying, okay, the mnemonic is fantastic, and what you're doing with your scheme is you're using the Shamir secret sharing, which basically splits it into multiple pieces, and those multiple pieces get split up across different devices and people, and you as a user can choose how you want to split that up. And then you need several pieces. Do you need several pieces then to bring together to make a transaction, or is this only for the backup? Because earlier you separated transactions from backup.
Yeah, that's a very good question. I should have been clear. So one, for recovering or restoring the wallet, you need 3 of the 5 keys. That's the that's the advantage of using Shamir secret sharing. So you would need 3 of them. You don't need 4 or 5 or all of them. That's the first thing. Second thing, you do not need them for transactional purposes. So if you have like 50 pound balance on your wallet and you want to spend it, you don't really need to get these. They're not co-signers of the transaction. It's a backup scheme. It's only needed when you want to restore the wallet.
And the
does that answer your question?
Yep.
Yeah.
So what's stored on the device is the master private key or the seed.
Mm-hmm.
Is that correct?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, good. Sir.
And one thing to note is we are not getting into the transactional parts of the wallet, but the transactional parts of the wallet has its own security. So, for example, the savings account is a multi-sig account, which is an amazing technique, but we use it only for the transactional side of the wallet. So it's essentially a 2FA based savings account, so that when you have the right 2FA, the server gives you the second signature. So even from a transactional point of view, some security is built in, but that is a typical multisig, 2 of 3 multisig, and that is very different from the backup that we have, which is a 3 of 5. The people do get confused a little bit between these, and therefore we don't call our savings account a multisig wallet. We just call it a 2FA based savings account, just to reduce the confusion. So far, so good.
Thanks for sharing the wallet.
Mm-hmm.
I downloaded it. I haven't used it yet, but I downloaded it and I've been looking at it. And when you think of the managing backup, maybe you could say something like choose 3 to 5 options right away, because when you look in, it feels like I'm looking, like a couple of these things feel like I'm looking at duplicates, like when you have the friends and family. And I like that you label it friends and family for the context too. It makes it easy to understand like who you're sending stuff to or not. And it feels like when you have the friends and family, it's a double option, and then the personal copy and it's a double option. You're kind of trying to figure out which one you're supposed to choose, or maybe just by having something a little clearer on the top that says choose 3 to 5 of these. It would make it a bit easier. Right. And I think like you could just click on the friends and family and be able to create more than one, maybe once you click through it, instead of having 2 options there. And maybe that's a suggestion. And a question I did have is like you have the savings versus a checking account. I like how you have them separated so people can think of what they're going to do. and how you're telling them that they should have smaller amounts, like on the checking account versus the savings account. The only thing is, I wonder why there are fees. Like it says, don't withdraw from the savings account because the fees are higher. Is that to encourage savings, or is that or I don't know? Are there regular fees, and is it cheaper to use a checking account? That was kind of like a question.
So you must have gone. Yeah, no, that's a good question, and frankly, thanks for the suggestions earlier. We have received similar feedback on the manage backup screen, so we are trying to address it. It is on the similar lines as you said. On the savings account, you must be reading the no more section of it, right?
What do you mean by the normal section? Oh, the no more?
Sorry, the where you read about, yeah. So yes, that's another area where we want to state facts that okay, a multi-sig transaction can be slightly costlier than a single sig transaction. That is what we wanted to convey to the users. But probably we should be less scary there, or maybe use slightly more, explain it a little more.
I think it's been helpful to look through this stuff. The only thing I wondered about is like if people will say, "Oh, this is going to cost me more," and they have no idea that it's a transactional thing, and if they would keep more funds in the checking account instead of switching it to the savings account, which has more security in it. That'd be my only concern. I think that people wouldn't choose that option based on that because they're worried that if they have to withdraw money, it would be somehow difficult.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. I am making notes. So yeah, thanks for that point. Okay. Anyone else? Okay, great. So I'm going to move on and how we want to improve on this particular scheme, right? That's the Hexa wallet backup, and this is where what we're trying to do with it. So one of the first things that happens when the user downloads a wallet, we've spoken to a lot of users and observed some of the users trying to use the wallet is they don't really go for the backup, especially the pre-coiners. They don't have any funds at the initial stage, so there's no reason for them to back up. So first of all, they are taken aback with the red shield. That what's wrong? Did I do something wrong? So that is number one. Second is genuinely, if you have a very low amount, then there is no need. Not there's no need, but people don't know if they're going to go all in Bitcoin or have any more accounts. So they wouldn't really. They don't really go for the backup. So we wanted to figure out a way that we can give them a default backup, but improve the backup, the security of the backup as the user progresses in their Bitcoin journey, essentially, right? So the way we want to structure it is we want to have like 3 levels of the backup security. And I'm going to go through the screens and talk about it, and hopefully we'll be able to connect all the dots to see the whole picture. These are very initial initial days, so I don't have all the slides, all the screens, but we have done some technical POCs to make sure that this does work, and that's what I'm presenting. So level 1, and then when the level 1 is basically when the user creates a new wallet. So the app backup is nothing but their iCloud or Google Drive storage. That is what is used, encrypted with a key stretching of the security answer that they have provided, and so on. So it's a single recovery key essentially that is stored on the cloud. That's the first level. In the second level, when the user wants to go for the second level, there's always a we are trying to nudge the user to improve the security, but it's never something wrong that they have done. So when they want to go to level 2, they simply can add 2 more keepers, right, to their backup, and that will move them to level 2. I'm going to talk about each of them, these levels, but this is the summary. And then again, similarly, if they add 2 more keepers, then they move to level 3. And while they are doing this, we will try to guide them or tell them what level 1 versus level 2 means, and what is the additional benefit they get if they go from level 1 to level 2 and then from level 2 to level 3. Right. So this is the basic construct of the backup scheme that we are trying to get to. Right. So level one, as I was talking about, level 1 is basically an encrypted recovery key kept on the cloud. When you are creating the Hexa wallet, you must have observed that there is a security question that is essentially something the user enters. They can choose a security question, or they can have their own security question. They can choose their own security question. The answer is used with some other mechanisms, key stretching mechanism and other stuff, to encrypt the recovery key, and then it is stored on either iCloud or Google Drive. Right? That is when that happens, the user is on level 1. Now the second screen you see is when it has been a while, and you just want the user to confirm the security question again. So small visual indicators will come up, like a small red dot, and the level will show an exclamation red. That will indicate that the user has to probably touch security questions to see what's there. And when the user does that, it just requests the user to confirm the answer, right? It should be confirm the security answer. And when the user confirms that, that's it. There's just a way to make sure that the user knows the answer. And that is where the level 1 will again go green, right? So it is set up by default, and the user is reminded about the security question. Or even if something happens wrong with the app backup, like the iCloud connection goes away for some reason, then there will be a call to action even there. So that's how level 1 works, and that's how the user gets reminded of level 1. Any questions here?
I just need to jump in just to do some timekeeping. Is Ivan from Zeus Wallet here?
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh,
Sorry for joining late. I mixed up the time zones.
No, you didn't. No, I did. I mixed up the time zones, so blame me.
Hey, no worries about it. Yeah, I'd still like to show you guys the app, show you what I got, and I think it would be awesome to get some feedback.
Okay, cool. All right, so in the interest of time, we do try and stop around like in the next half an hour, 40 minutes. So if you'd want to give Anant some feedback on the last couple of screens, maybe we can have a discussion around that for the next kind of 5-10 minutes or so, and then we can, if people want to stay around after, we can continue the conversation after. I'm just a bit conscious of getting everyone some speaking.
So how much time do I have?
So we can go for another 10 minutes. So you can either present some more, or we can just go straight into discussion on the last couple of slides.
Yeah,
it's up to you.
I think we'll get there in a couple of minutes. I'm just going to speed up, but this is the level 2, and you can add different types of keepers as we briefly spoke about, and you can use a QR code or a link to add those keepers. Similar with level 3, this shows you some screens when the user is trying to add a contact using a QR code, right? So this is how the screens look like. The home screen looks like, where the user can see it's level 1, but there's a suggestion that you can add keepers to improve the health of the backup, or some other words. But basically, you're trying to tell the user that you might want to improve the backup. Now this is the most important screen in terms of how it is happening and what are we doing behind the scenes. So when the user is at level 1, there's a single recovery key, and it is automatically backed up on the cloud. It's encrypted by the security answer, as I explained. And this is where we could use something like a Photon server, where there is also a rate limitation on how many tries someone can do, and the encryption is probably worth looking at in terms of how secure that is. Now, what happens from level 1 to level 2 is that the mnemonic is sharded.
Recording has stopped.
Recording has stopped.
Sorry.
Right. So, shall I just continue?
1 second.
This is the last slide. So
yeah, no, continue. I've got a backup recording anyway, so go ahead.
Awesome. So when the user wants to go to level 2, what happens is the app does a 2 of 3 shared secret sharing. It creates 3 recovery keys. The one that was on the cloud is replaced by this new recovery key, and two others are kept as QR codes in Hexa apps or your personal device, an iPad or something that you have lying somewhere. And then a similar thing happens when they go from level 2 to level 3. The 3 keepers replace their old recovery keys with the new one, and 2 keepers are added. So essentially, the resiliency or the redundancy increases from each level as you go from 1 to 2 to 3. So that's basically what happens behind the scenes. And for enabling this, we are not going to have all kinds of keepers, but if you can see at the bottom, we want to have different types of keepers that the user can have, from physical prints to probably a desktop companion app, or recovery key on hardware devices and stuff like that. So this is how the new backup scheme would work. There are future plans to improve it even further, but this is the next piece we have planned. So that's it, guys. That's what I had. The floor is open.
I like it a lot. I think it's much easier to dive into this as a user, where it just takes you step by step and it's broken down into individual pieces, and it grows with you. So I think it's great. I guess two small comments would be the color red is always scary in the context of security. So even if you prompt people to just enter their security question again, a red exclamation point might make me think, oh, something's wrong or so. And I was also wondering if it's necessary to always, like, is this shield on the home screen always visible? Because if everything's okay, maybe you don't need to show it.
Right.
Just minor comments.
It is, yeah, probably we'll have to think about, but the idea is to always keep user informed of their security level and what is the next step, essentially. But I get your point. If it's all fine, especially if you're at level 3, you don't even need to see it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Like, it looks a lot better, I think it makes it simpler, and you can also pick the option easier. So it's a good improvement. The only thing I keep thinking of is the wording on it. Add keepers to improve health. Maybe it makes sense, but maybe it makes sense once you look into it. You click through and see it. I know right now you have the wallet backup is not secured, but I don't know. That's the only thing. I'm not sure I understand what that was about completely. But you guys have a good process of explaining things, and all of these little details that you click through, it feels like they're well thought out. So good work on that, because it really explains to you if you really want to know. So thank you for the work.
Right. Yeah, we do have. We haven't thought through all the text honestly. But yes, we'll probably make it as clear as possible.
Hi, Anant. Daniel here. Yeah, really nice to see you working in the 3 levels and the kind of starting with the automatic backup. I think that's really good for most users, which means that they have some security even before, adding any funds at all. So that's great. I had a similar comment about language. I think visually and sort of component-wise, it seems pretty clear, but I think the language could be easier. So for example, instead of level 1, 2, and 3, which, they describe a progression perhaps, but maybe you could find names of them so that they kind of stand on their own a little bit. So like maybe the level 1 is automatic cloud backup, and level 2 has a descriptive name, and level 3 has a descriptive name. Just a suggestion. I know it can be hard to come up with them, but that could make it easier for users to understand what they are without having to read a kind of description. Keepers as well, to me,
we just
sound. Yeah,
just
sorry.
On that we did. Sorry, that those kind of names we couldn't really come up with. It's still open. It's very easy to change it. So yeah, we'll try to see if we can come up with more descriptive names. Okay.
Yeah, no, it's hard. I know.
But if you have any suggestions, do send it to us.
Yeah, I can follow up because I had some more detailed things as well. But
sure.
Keeper was another word that sort of stuck out to me. That it's sort of perhaps easier to just say backup. You can have a PDF backup, or you can have a device backup. But up to you. And health, to me, also felt perhaps like the wrong word. Maybe you just say security. You can improve your security. And I had a question about level 2 and level 3. These QR codes, they seem clever. They don't have to live in another Hexa app, do they? It can just be an image saved somewhere. Do I understand that correctly?
If you want to store them as like a PDF, you can do that. There are certain limitations of storing it as a PDF. Like, for example, we cannot automatically ping it and check whether they are accessible. So you could do that, but you might want to, if you have like a couple of other devices or some contacts, you might want to use them. So it's completely up to the user.
Yeah. Okay, got it. Well, thank you very much.
Thanks, Daniel.
Cool. I'm gonna jump in again. Thanks so much, Anna. That was really cool.
Sure.
If people want to kind of follow up with you, is Slack the best place, or the Design Review channel, or?
I think we can start off from Slack.
Okay.
And I would love to talk to as many people as possible. So yeah, please do reach out.
Okay, awesome. Thanks. Thanks for your patience, everyone. If anyone needs to hop off like that, we can. Yeah.
Great. So I'm here to talk about Zeus. Zeus is a Lightning-focused wallet. It's based on React Native, so it's cross-platform. It runs on iOS, currently only on test flight, but it seems like we're going to get it on the main app store soon. It's also on Android. You can download it directly from our website or get it from Google Play. So Zeus pretty much started as a passion project for me. It still really is. It's just an open source project. And basically I wanted to scratch my own itch. I set up a Raspberry Pi to get set up on the Lightning Network. And I realized there weren't any great options for connecting to that wallet, to that node remotely from my phone. So I decided to make one for myself. So a couple caveats to this. We're running an iOS simulator. It's running in debug mode. The biggest quirk that's going on is that the images, not all the images are loading properly. I'll point those out where appropriate. We can dive into it, and we could just address any issues as is. So fire it up. Get good old Zeus there. Obviously, you'll see debugging stuff like that, and some quirk at the bottom as far as debugging messes. This is the main screen. You're going to see a couple of gray boxes here. We have images. Unfortunately, they're not loading up in debug mode. Unfortunately, I can't get it running in production on a computer with the current setup. Perhaps next time I'll have a better setup. But yeah, this is the main wallet view. Once you're connected to your node, I suppose we could dive in. to the intro screen that users will first see when they get set up. I think that's a better explanation of the app. I try to explain like what the use case is for. I think that. So yeah, let's dive into it. Always revisit the intro tour from the settings screen. So yeah, this is the first screen you'll see if you don't have a node connected. You can jump and set your locale. We've done a pretty good job at crowdsourcing our translations for the app. Pretty pleased with the set of languages we have so far. If you want to contribute, we're on TransFX, so you can provide translations for your locale of choice. Once you're set up there, you can skip the nonsense if you're an existing user. You could also scan an LND Connect config. LND Connect is a certain format for connecting to your node remotely that the fine folks over at Zap have created. So if you want to get right to it, connect to your node by scanning QR, you can do it there. Or if you're not really sure what this app is all about and what your options are, you could hit the Get Started button and see what's going on. So we try to explain that Bitcoin is not Bitcoin if you're not using your own full node. You get all these great advantages in terms of security and privacy. You're not trusting any middleman. No one knows which transactions are yours if you're using like a third-party node. And yeah, it basically runs down what features Zeus is able to give you. You have an interface to manage your channels in Lightning. For those that don't know, Lightning is a layer 2 solution on Bitcoin. It solves quite a bit of Bitcoin's issues as far as its speed and having to wait on its block times. In terms of the fees that you have to pay on chain, and most importantly, the throughput. Bitcoin is limited to about 1 or 2 megabytes of transactions. On the Lightning Network, you don't really have those same limitations, so Bitcoin's able to scale to pretty much infinite transactions. It's really dependent on how many channels are open up and how many people are running hardware on it. So in terms of scaling Bitcoin to the world, Lightning is an incredible, important part of the equation. And in making Zeus, I wanted to make something that would help get us there. So one thing we're really proud about with Zeus is that it has support for all these different kinds of Lightning nodes. The main implementation out there is called LND. It's made by the fine folks at Lightning Labs, and that's the implementation Zeus came to be built on. But as time went on, we added support for some of the other interfaces, including C Lightning, which has 2 API interfaces, C Lightning, REST, and Spark, as well as Eclair, which is the third most used, I'd say, implementation of Lightning. So yeah, we proudly support all those. So if you have a node of any of these types, you're able to connect. And yeah, we all make all our connections over the REST interfaces for these nodes. And from there, you can jump and select what node you have and manually enter your information in and queue up. But let's say you don't have a node. We give a little explainer of what other options you have. So another option we have for users is a custodial solution called LND Hub. If you guys have ever used Blue Wallet, this is the plumbing that they use to power their Lightning wallet. It's a pretty good solution. It's great for newbies. However, it does have some trade-offs. It's like using a bank. The funds aren't yours, and it sort of goes against the philosophy of Bitcoin in that if you don't have the keys to it, you don't have the control of the funds. They're not yours. So in being like someone who really wants to adhere to that philosophy, I thought it was very important to spell it out for people. Obviously, this is a very wordy page, as well as the previous one. but I've just found it very important to outline, these trade-offs. So the user can choose to connect with L&D Hub and create an account. I'm going to walk through that workflow of what that looks like. I think that could use some improvement too. But yeah, if you choose not to go that route and you're maybe looking for a node, we have an integrations page. Like I mentioned before, our images aren't loading up, but Zeus works on Raspberry Pi Blitz. It works on Noddle. It works on my node. It works on BTCPayServer. And it also works on Umbrel, which is a really, really great project. I would say they have like an incredible interface, probably the best interface UI-wise as far as all the pre-made node solutions go. I really recommend you guys check that out if you haven't. Yeah, we're really proud to be integrated on all those platforms. So let's go through all the steps. It's the last page of our intro, right? You'll hit and you'll get a option to enter in your data manually. So like I said, you have multiple interfaces you can use here. You can pick what kind of node you have. They're sort of ordered by what's most common. And yeah, you're able to enter in your host information, your port, your macaron. And as you guys can tell, it's not like a super user-friendly process here in that you need to know what your host, your port, your macaron is, what these things are. But part of that is alleviated because of their target audience is that of full node operators. We also have option to use Tor if you have your node connected over the Tor network and you don't want to connect to your node at home over an open port on your router. And we also have an option for certificate verification. Some of the steps there can be a little overbearing as well, but if you toggle it, it'll tell you how to install it on your device. Again, this is one of the more wordy screens as well, but there's not really a good way to work around that. If you don't want to enter in your information manually, we have prompts that come up at the top. It detects that an L&D Connect string is found on your keyboard, but you also have the scan options to scan your connection config via QR code. One via the more common L&D Connect config, and we also have an option for the BTCPayServer config, which uses its own format. Was really happy to work with the BTCPayServer folks on that to get that done. Perhaps I'll show you guys what it looks like connecting to L&D Hub. So this is the default host that is used by the Blue Wallet folks. You could also scan a QR from the Blue Wallet app down here. But you don't have an account, you could just hit the Create L&D Hub account, and you'll get this warning, similar to the one that was on the intro screen saying that your balance is going to be tracked, your transaction, the IP address you can connect with. And your funds aren't really yours, but it still makes for a good way to connect to the Lightning Network if you're a newbie. Once you understand this, you create that. And you're given a username password config. You're given a warning up top that you need to save this. I think perhaps moving forward, we could change this to like a QR system that Blue Wallet uses. But once you have this all done, you can hit Save Node into your node, the other node.
I think we've lost Ivan. Evan, I think you're breaking up a little bit and your screen's disappeared. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me? Oh,
okay, there we go. Okay, we're back
now.
in action. It might be a good opportunity actually to pause and maybe get some discussion in now, actually, while we just touch the hour mark.
Yeah, sure thing. I think that would be great.
Yeah, I know a few people. If you need to hop off because we're at the hour mark, feel free. But we'll continue anyway. I actually like the fact that you've taken a lot of thought into although some might consider it a bit wordy, you are taking quite a lot of care in trying to explain each and every action to the user, which is really good. And it seems like you've kind of definitely opted for strong, providing the user with strong amounts of options, which is also really good. So I like both of those things for sure.
Yeah,
go ahead.
Sorry, go.
Well, I had the same feedback because I also I tried out Blue Wallet and I tried out their Lightning, and I was like, how does it work? And I think Tancred told me that they're custodial, and I always missed that explanation. I wanted to know more. Like, how does it even work? And in your description, it says, well, they can run off with your funds. Well, that'd be kind of nice to know in my Blue Wallet too. But another thing I had a question was, you say your target audience is full node operators. Is that are you still talking about casual users that are just a bit more tech savvy, or are you talking about full node operators that somehow need some advanced tools to manage channels and liquidity and all kinds of stuff? And are you offering features for those?
So this is primarily focused towards the latter. I would say people who are running nodes, people who are managing their own channels, people who understand all the concepts of Lightning Network. They can be quite complex. But I think one of my goals in having this meeting with you guys is to help try to find ways to bridge that gap. And I think part of Zeus's goal is to encourage full node use. So part of the reason that we do have that custodial node feature in there is that we do want these newbies to get onboarded onto the Lightning Network, even if it is custodial, because in my vision, a lot of people are going to stay custodial on the Lightning Network. I think that's an inevitability of this thing moving forward as we expand to what I see is going to be an inevitable worldwide use of not really just Lightning, but of Bitcoin. But in saying that and in acknowledging that, I think it's very important that we illustrate and we let our users know what trade-offs there are, and to sort of give them a path forward to get there. Like, you can start here and custodial and live with these trade-offs, but when you're ready to level up, we'll show you the way, and you can use an interface that you're somewhat familiar with already to use with your full node. So I think part of this process is really like highlighting and being frank with your users about what's going on behind the scenes, but also encouraging them to take those extra steps to grow out the network and become sovereign with their funds. Perhaps there are other options in the middle between that custodial and going all the way with your own node that could probably be explored more. But a lot of them are still being developed and depend on a whole bunch of different things, including companies' business models and taking risks to set up channels without transactions being sorted and putting up liquidity out of their own pockets. So, there's not really a really clear answer, but it's something we all need to be thinking about.
I got a question. So users of this app, how would they be creating channels with one another? Like, what's the process of that? I'm not sure if I got it or not. Is that what the scan button is for, to be able to?
So if you want, I can show you right here. So this is running a full node to a BTC testnet server, so it's not working on the real network. It's using Play funds. This is the channel view on the channel tab. We'd have I don't know what the term is, not emoticons, but They're different
identi-
patterns that are
identical?
derived from the public key so that it identify each based on logo. I think Safari bugs out a little bit as far as the screen share. I think Anant was having similar problems.
Yeah,
but
we just lost you in that last little bit. Sorry.
Yes. So on this screen, we'll show a little breakdown of where the channels are balanced. Like your local side and your remote partner, they have different balances. I think the best way to equate it is like a abacus, where you slide beads across. The total amount of sats on a channel stays the same, but you can slide one across from your side to another, to your partners, to make a transaction. And we try to highlight that there, where the amount on your side and the orange is the amount on your partner's side. So channel has, if your partner's channel has a name to it, we add an identifier. And channel screen that you press from here. Well, let's see if it loads up. And you can enter it manually and set your partner's node pub, where to find them, their hosting port, the amount in Satoshis, how many confirmations to wait before you open it, and the fee rate, which is Satoshis per byte. You could also set whether it's private and is broadcast to the network or not, or if it's just between you two. You might want to not have it private if you're a routing node and are looking to make money off fees. Once all your information is plugged in, you hit open channel, and it'll give you a success or an error message up top in red or green font. Furthermore, you could also see what the fees are looking like. We use this site called whatthefee.io. Let's see if we could get it loading right now. All right. We put on the network. I know it's in and out. I got it up on the screen, but you should see it now. So it's what time frame for the transaction to get settled in and what the probability of success is. So let's say I'm looking for a 6-hour time frame and I want a 95% chance of success there. I would hit the 55 here. Here, if you scroll back up, and you'll see 55 sats per byte. So this is one of our cooler additions.
I guess
I like what
I guess like notifications are a big part of this application, since like the idea is that you are able to monitor your channels and like node status from the app. Do you have any controls and stuff for that as yet, or like what's your thoughts about this?
About notifications, as it stands right now, we don't have any active notifications, but we're looking to make things a little more dynamic in that regard. It would be a little bit of a heavy lift, making sure things happen in the background to check your node, but that's possible. What kind of notifications did you have in mind?
Sorry, John. Just before you answer that, is it Evan or Evan? Evan, right?
It's Evan.
Evan, sorry, my bad. We're gonna wrap up in like 5 or so minutes. So we can spend the next 5 or 10 minutes just on discussion. So if you want to unshare your screen and close down your simulator, that's fine. And then we just end on some discussion to finish. Does that sound okay, or?
Yeah, sure thing. Why not?
Cool, awesome. So yeah, go on, John. Finish your your
Yeah, I was just saying that since it's like your node in the in your pocket, right? You're connecting to a node that you have on your Raspberry Pi or Umbro, walking around with it. For what reason would you be doing that, right? And then is it to either make payments or is it to do monitoring of your node? So you mentioned that it's like the more advanced user, and I'm thinking more along the lines of like monitoring the health and like status of channels and nodes, and if something like if one of the my peers are offline or something like this, I'd want to be notified of it, or if I'm gonna like lose some funds, or some integration with like watchtowers to ensure that the like I'm not getting cheated.
Yeah, that's a good idea. So I would say first and foremost, Zeus's main purpose is for spending, for people trying to spend their funds on the go, and that node management stuff is a little bit more secondary. I would say you'd have, you still want to be able to do things on the go, right, and get notifications of things that are happening. But perhaps the more serious things that you want to do as far as rebalancing channels and perhaps looping out is better fitted for a desktop experience. Mm-hmm. I personally find myself managing my node a lot with the Ride the Lightning app, which I think is fantastic. But yeah, I think my main thinking was spending focus primarily, just because I would say that the main, driver, or like the main use case of Lightning for me at least was spending in person. The fact that your transactions are settled pretty much instantly makes it conducive for, accepting it in real life transactions. You don't want to be at a supermarket, for example, when this thing takes off and having to wait 10 minutes or however long for your transaction to get in the block. So I always thought that Lightning is really the solution for in-person payments, and that if you're purchasing something online and you're getting shipped or a service like that, you don't necessarily need to have it on Lightning. You could put it on a block and have it settle whenever that happens.
Hey, Evan.
Yeah?
Daniel here. I just wanted to give you some feedback before we run out of time. And if you have anything to share afterwards, we can probably go deeper if you have a Figma file or any other info. But since we spent most of the time on the onboarding you showed us, I thought I could focus there. And I guess I got maybe 3 different buckets of feedback.
Okay.
And it's helpful to know that you're targeting people who mostly want to spend. Generally, I would advise you to try and simplify the flow, right? There was a lot there, and for good reason. But I think there's probably ways you can try and reduce the sort of number of options on each screen. You might need more screens in the end, but by reducing the number of options on each screen, you might actually make it simpler for the user to come on board. You also acknowledge yourself that there were some wordy screens there. I think that's probably warranted, but I would still recommend you to cut down on the density. Maybe you can say, similar things with slightly less words, or link off to, a page with more information if required. Mm-hmm. So that was probably the first bucket, kind of simplify the flow. And then as part of that, trying to separate, I noticed there was quite a few, buttons on many pages, and they were sort of mixed up. Some of them were options. Some of them were navigation, as in like, skip the tour, or, go back. Or I would maybe try and recommend separating, the different kinds of actions, whether it's navigation and, these kind of different options. And ideally try and get down to like, maybe 1 or maximum 2 recommended sort of actions that you're promoting on each page. And, if there are, 4 different types of nodes, software that people could choose from, maybe try and use your knowledge of, which one is the majority used one, and maybe some of the lesser ones gets kind of depromoted down into some advanced options or something. But you know more than me about that. But then the last bucket I just wanted to mention is maybe purely UI focused. I'm not sure if you're building this in React or some other thing, but maybe there are some UI component libraries out there that could help you along the way a little bit when it comes to just button styling and kind of just help you in general with the sort of components of the UI. So that was my sort of high level feedback. I'm happy to send you more if you have some information to share, on Slack or something. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. That feedback was wonderful. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Daniel. I'm going to stop recording as well. So I guess